Hey YouTube, this is Kayak DIY, and right now we're going to go over the GearTrac. Right here we have an uninstalled GearTrac. It is the 16-inch version, as I mentioned earlier. I simply am going to line up the same way I did on the other one, which I'm running this corner actually right up against this corner here, and then I'm making sure that I have it relatively flush up on this corner. So this corner right here and this corner are going to be relatively flush. That's the way I'm lining it up for this particular one. You'll see a lot of other people that are Hobie owners, and they'll be putting the whole entire GearTrac over towards this edge. But you don't really have to, because the screws that they provide are not that deep. Even when you are putting them up against the sideboard this way, they're barely passing through the sideboard. But once you put them into the actual GearTrac, it limits the depth even further, and they will not pass through all the way to the other side. So it's just enough for it to grip really well, but not enough for it to go into our plastic hull. So we're not defeating the purpose of the sideboards. These GearTracs come with a 1/8 inch drill bit and all the screws that you need to install. Now the only thing is this drill bit is pretty long, so I could easily drill into my hull by having the GearTrac position here. So the way I got through that is I took a piece of thin metal, I happened to find this in the shop, and I wedge it in between the actual hull and the sideboard, and that makes it so that when I drill the first holes all the way down here, I'm not drilling into the hull. This is a harder material, it stops the drill bit, and that lets me know that I've passed it all the way through the sideboard. So without further ado, let's get started drilling. I can now take one of the screws, and I recommend doing this by hand, because if you don't, you risk stripping the area that you're threading into. So there, we have that attached nice. Now I will end up doing this side, and that way I will have this whole entire piece secured down so that I can drill the rest of the holes and not worry about being off. So I will line this up flush, just as I said earlier. There we go. I could tell when I went through the black sideboard because this moved. So now I can take this screw and thread it in. And then I gotta do this another 14 times because we got 14 more screws here, but I'll have to drill the rest of these holes. And in between drilling these holes, I will put this spacer piece in between the sideboard and the hull so that I don't drill in to the hull. And we'll do that now. Okay, so now we have the entire mount secure with the 16 screws. The screws are not sticking out underneath and they are not protruding into the hull. So the sideboard is doing its job, and these screws are just the right length to where they do not reach the hull. They are also flat, so they do not snag or grip anything. We then have the Mighty mount, which is this piece here, and these bolts, and is secured to the 241 mount, which is by Scotty, and it is kind of comes as a kit with the Rodmaster 2, which is the tube here. We then slide it onto the track. You just have to make sure that the T's line up there. But then once it's on the track, you can slide it up and down and lock it into place by threading the knobs. And once it's locked into place, it is very secure. It isn't going to go anywhere. Even if you get a good sized fish on there, it's going to hold it tight. Then you can take the rod holder and you can adjust it to where you need it. Or it comes off. It just has a groove right here, and you line that groove up, and once it's pushed all the way down, it's locked. But once you put it down in and then you turn it when it's in the free space, you turn it any way you want. You can't lift it up. You can only lift it up when it's lined up with the groove. Thanks for watching. That's a look at the build, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please subscribe, and look forward to making more videos. Thanks.